What's up, y'all? Today should be fun. So Fiddly, what's your definition of fiddly? I mean, there's a bunch. I mean, Charlie, he's fiddly. It was inevitable to make the joke. All right, there you go. I made the joke. All right. So on a serious note, what fiddly in board games? How would you define it? I'm going to paraphrase and kind of take the sentiment of what Octavian over on BGG said about 10 years ago when this discussion came up for the umpteenth time as well, as far as a definition of fiddly, because I feel like we need to set some ground rules for this top 10 because, well, everybody has their own interpretation. So I think he summed it up here. I just cleaned it up a little bit. So here we go. Each game has a tolerance threshold. That threshold is the number of rules exceptions, amount of manipulating pieces or cards, and or near constant calculating or recalculating of something, usually resources, victory points, etc. That the amount that's tolerable. War games tend to have a higher threshold than Euros. And the game weight and the level of the threshold are often correlated as well. Once you pass that threshold, the game is too fiddly. Or another way to put it, games you like, not fiddly. Games you don't like, fiddly as hell. All right. So I think that's a pretty apt and pretty fair description, all things being considered. But another caveat here. I have chosen for this list to exclude rules fiddliness for this list. Reason is, otherwise, it would consist of nothing but war games, or historical simulations, if you prefer. It would consist of nothing but Lacerda games. Hi, Vito. It would consist of nothing but solo games. Hi, Mr. Prez. Or just straight up Mage Knight. So I took out rules fiddliness. All right. It took me way longer to set up than you'd think. Anyway, so once you remove the rules fiddliness, what are you left with? Just physical fiddliness and the constant recalculating. So that could include 18xx games because you're constantly having to recalculate routes. Didn't include them because, well, I just didn't. I didn't think it was worth it. So let's start off with some other games I didn't include here that I think are valid. Start off with Indonesia. Half that game is great. Half is just tedious as all get out. The operations and trying to figure out deliveries, not pleasant, not enjoyable, and fiddly as hell. That makes sense. At least to me. Power grid, right? Constantly, oh, wait, how many can I power? How much does that cost? It's a part of it, but nah. It's funny. I went back and read on BGG about a 10 or 15-year-old thread about it, and that was the number one game most mentioned. Just saying. But I think we've come a long way from then, for better or for worse. The Haven series, the calculating and recalculating, manipulating monsters, and I know it has a massive following, and it's a great game for those that enjoy it. And by great game, I mean series, games, universe, whatever. If I'm gonna do that, though, honestly, gonna go play an RPG on the video game. Horseless Carriage has one aspect that's fiddly. The little picture frames for sales. That's it. Not worthy of the list. Ultimate Railroads. Oh my God, are you recalculating at the end of every single round? Oh my God, yes. But, And or Labora. Has a bit of a tableau and the resources. Nah. So, what is on this list? What are the, well, I'm not going to say 10 best, but yeah, 10 best. Start off, Dice Realms. Look, not everybody's going to like this. That's fine, but this game's a lot of fun. It's rolling chunks of dice, chunky-ass dice, but the faces, oh my God. Exchanging the faces, the constant faces, and God help you if you bump those trays. Oh my God. But for those that don't think it's strategic or enough strategy or deep enough, you should play with Tom Lehman himself. And yeah, I really enjoy the game. It doesn't hit the table as much as I think it probably should, but really, really solid game and a lot of fun. So that's number 10. Didn't expect that, did you? How about number 9, The Colonist? An amazing, epic, Uwe-esque game that just has a million different buildings that you can build and a million different pathways that you can go and a ton of different things to constantly be flipping or updating but is it worth it? Yeah, it's definitely worth it. Number 8, Lechita. Now, a lot of y'all probably have never heard of this and a lot of y'all have never probably played this. Full disclosure, I hadn't played it until the Gathering of Friends. And it is all about building up little towns in Italy, but it's fiddly. Obviously, it's on this list, right? The constant calculating of, wait, am I losing? Do I have too many people? Is my population too big, or is it not big enough? And it's a constant recalculating every round and every turn within that game. But it is a really good game that apparently is getting a reprint or has been reprinted this year. So that's welcome. That's nice. That's number 8. Number 7, Masters of Venice. We streamed this one. And well, I think we've streamed just about every game on this list except for Lechita. But Masters of Venice, the fiddliness of constantly updating the little pegs in the pegboards. And there's a lot of pegboards, and it's a lot of updating, and it's a pain in the butt, but the game is worth it. It's let's be honest, it's ugly as sin. If there's a game that could use a graphic redoing, as well as maybe figuring out a way to not have to do the little pegboards, that'd be great. But even with, is still worthy of hunting down and getting a copy. So Masters of Venice, number 7. Number 6, Millennium Blades. We're not even going to talk about when you first get your copy of a new copy of Millennium Blades and then having to put together stacks of money. Literally, it is stacks of paper money that you then have to band up with stickers to make packs of money. It's an awesome idea once you've done it, but good God, is that a pain in the butt. But we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is a real-time game, CCG tournament game. But what makes this so fiddly is you have approximately 74 different stacks of cards. And with a table full of 4 different people and the stacks of cards and trying to keep it all organized and neat and not have it go everywhere is a massive pain. But oh my God, is this game a lot of fun. It is a blast to play and definitely worthy of being on this list. Moving on. Number 5. I mean, y'all had to know that there were going to be at least a couple of splatters that are on this list. Roads and Boats. Constant manipulating and swapping out of resources and exchanging. It's a resource, it's a logistics game and a resource conversion game. I joke that UPS and FedEx use this to as part of their interview process. You need to be able to play this well to be able to be a person that works for UPS or FedEx because it's such a logistics heavy game. It is a really great game. But I didn't bring my forceps with me, but you need tweezers to play this game. You do. So yeah, Roads and Boats, number 5. Number 4, Tricerian. I think this is the best Mind Clash game, and it is a joy to play. And it always brings a smile to my face when I see people playing this. And it gets a lot of run at HeavyCon. But the performing of the tricks and the constant the resource conversion. There's a lot of that on this list, but to be expected because, again, we've omitted the rules fiddliness, but the fiddliness of the components and so on and so forth in Tricerian is high. And is it needlessly slow? I don't know. It's still a great game, regardless. Definitely worthy of checking out. Number 3, Antiquity. This is the mother of all fiddly Euros, in my opinion. It's also one of the very, very best civilization building games. Or city building. I guess city building more than civilization. I mean, you're going to get a couple of cities out there, but overall, constantly putting out graves, constantly putting out pollution, removing pollution, and another game that really requires tweezers or forceps or to modify your edition of the game otherwise. Roads and Boats and Antiquity are, in my opinion, I think they're probably the two best splatters, or at least in a running form. Antiquity definitely is. But they are also fiddly as all get out. So know that coming in, and they're massive boxes. So now number 2, Dominant Species. Look, it's one of my favorite games of all time. But is it fiddly? Hell yeah. And it's fiddly in 2 ways. It's fiddly not only with the dominance versus population, but the cones itself, but the constant calculating and recalculating of dominance. The constant. To me, it's second nature now, but I've also played the game probably 50 times. For most people, it's not. Is it a bridge too far for some? Yes, and understandably so. I get that. And that, honestly, that's part of the reason why Dominant Species Marine exists. It removes a lot of that. But does it impede this from being one of the greatest games of all time? No. Dominant Species, number 2. Number 1, if you were to go back 10 years, I think this and Power Grid were number 1. If you go today, I think this is still probably in the conversation for number 1 for those that have played it. And is it the best Civilization game of all time? Yup. Through the Ages. Oh my God. The amount of bookkeeping that is in this game is... It has almost driven me to the point to where I don't want to play the physical version because there is an online version. However, no, not quite. Almost. Almost. It's right at that cusp as being the most fiddly game that is absolutely worth it if you want the best Civilization experience in board games through the ages. And to be clear, notice it's a new story of Civilization, not the original. The original is great. This one balances out to where military isn't as important and makes it a better game. But oh my God, is it fiddly? Yes, very much so. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Go check it out. A lot of y'all have never played Through the Ages. Please fix that. Please remedy that. This list has inspired me to get Through the Ages back out onto the table, and we're going to stream that again in the coming weeks because I want to show it off because I know a lot of y'all have not played it. So there you go. That is my top 10 fiddly but worth it games of all time. What do y'all think? What you got? Let's see. E says over on Twitch, only on the app. Sorry, only on the app. And others are Elk ticket or Through the Ages is awesome on Board Game Arena. Man. Chris says, I keep seeing people sell it for 25, 30 bucks and think about it. Then I remember the fiddle factor. I don't care. It's worth it. Go pick it up. Oh my God, for 30 bucks. Look at what's on sale out there for $100. The amount of game you get for under 50 bucks. Pick up a copy of Through the Ages. Fight through it. Fabio, make that happen. Zipco says, if we're talking components of physical setup, Mr. President still qualifies. I get that. But I didn't think I'd include setup. Yes, Mr. President absolutely would. But the actual playing, it's such a low chit density game. I didn't think Mr. President qualified. Setup, yes. And I think that is another top 10 for another day. Top 10 biggest bears for setup. That absolutely is going to be a top 10 in the future. Civolution, absolutely is going to be one of those once it comes out. So I need to wait until after Essen to do that top 10, but that absolutely is going to happen. Raj says, you've convinced me. I'm telling you, I promise you. I promise you. If you were disappointed in the quality of the game that Through the Ages brings, I'll be honest. If you're disappointed in the quality of the game that anything on this list brings, you're wrong. It's okay, but hit me up. Tell me. And see, I am purposely avoided talking about solo games because, I mean, on Mars, boy, we'll fight. A coin following the flowcharts. It's not fiddly. It's impossible. Like, so I didn't want this to be all solo games. Now, could we make a list for that? Yes. But, I mean, I feel like war games need their own. I feel like solo games need their own, right? And then a rules fiddliness aspect. Because, I mean, Feudum needs to be recognized somewhere in that, right? What's the best player count for Ticket? Or why do I keep wanting to call it Ticket to Ride? Best player count for Through the Ages, 2 or 3. Legitimately 2 or 3 is fantastic. If people think, so I thought about this was an incredibly hard list for me to put together for the last couple of games. Now, the last couple of games doesn't necessarily mean they were number 10, number 9, but to try and come up with the games within the realm of that limiting factor was incredibly difficult. I was up until 2 o'clock this morning trying to do this. I spent 6 hours coming up with this list. There were some obvious ones. The obvious ones, Through the Ages, Roads and Boats, Antiquity, Tricerian, Millennium Blades. Yeah, I think those were the obvious ones. And then and Masters of Venice. So those 6. I got to 6 really easily. Those last 4 were really hard. And I thought about, do I include the PAX games as a whole? But we recently played PAX Porfiriana, and it's just not that fiddly. It's just not. The rules, maybe, that's where the fiddliness comes in. So I was like, no, I can't include that. So whether you're talking Premier, whether you're talking Renaissance or whatnot, I feel like the PAX games as a whole, PAX Penning isn't a PAX game. We're not even going to include that in this discussion. Those would fill one slot for rules overhead or a rules fiddliness. So, but there you go. So no 1817. I could have included 18XX games, and to be fair, I only included games I've played, and I haven't played 17 yet. So, there's that. All right, that's it. That's a wrap. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Leave your lists. I want to know, again, following the same rules I did, leave your list down below. I want to read them. I think it's really entertaining, and it sparks some good discussion. If you're a patron, do that. Hit us up over on Slack. I want to hear y'all's list. I want to see them. So, like and subscribe. It really, really does help the channel. Plus, it just makes me feel good. So if you want to make me feel good on a Tuesday, hit the like and subscribe button. Those 2 things. You want to go the extra mile, go to patreon.com/HCHQ. Support the show there. I'm out. We got this. Kyle's coming over. We're going through this tonight. You'll see it tomorrow. I'll see you all then. Take care, everybody.